Everybody, welcome back. I am Vintage, my co-host.
Oogleese this episode.
Oh, we're going with Oogleese this time.
Oogleese this episode, yep.
All right, and we got D up top here. How's it going, D?
Hey everyone.
Also known as Demias. Demias, why don't you introduce yourself? Tell some folks about you.
You my boy D.
Hey everyone. My name's Demias. I've been playing Star Citizen for quite a number of years now. 7 or 8. So
There you
it's been a while. I tend to stick more towards the roleplay side of things of the game. But that being said, I also run orgs and stuff like that.
Heck yeah.
Hell yeah! So 7 or 8 years. What patch was that when you came in? You remember?
I think it was. Oh, geez. I think I think it was just around when 3.0 came out.
Okay.
Really?
So like, the game just drastically had changed.
Yeah.
Heck
Okay.
yeah.
So what are your thoughts on this current patch then?
For 3.19 or the upcoming one?
The current one, 3.19 one. Yeah.
Granting.
Yeah.
Rough start. Best way I could say.
Yeah.
But that being said, as with most patch cycles, right now it's pretty stable. Aside from the bugs and all that. Looks like it's pretty polished up and getting ready for the next iteration of the game.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which I'm excited for.
Me and you
Absolutely.
both. I am very excited for the next patch. New Arena Commander update is going to be pretty cool. I'm excited for that.
I am
I'm
too,
excited
to
for that.
just simply just don't have a whole lot of time. I can just simply get in there.
Jump in, yes.
Yeah.
Get a couple matches out,
Yep. I mean, that is
Heck
one
yeah.
thing that I'm no longer a fan of Call of Duty, Apex, or anything like that. But that was one good thing, that all I had to do was load the game and hop in a match and play a
Yeah.
couple, and then I could just leave, like no big deal.
Yeah.
So
Especially
I
if you're in a rush, you got to go meet the woman at a bistro
I
for
don't
fancy
know what that is.
cocktails on the beach. Sure
I
you
don't know
do.
what that is.
Sure you do.
No, I don't.
Good lord. It's thundering outside.
Over there at your place now too.
Yep, I told you it was making its way over here.
Yeah, we got a bit of a storm outside, so if y'all hear some thundering, we apologize. Ain't much I can do about it.
No, I can go out there and take all my clothes off and start yelling at it, but the neighbors probably won't like that too much.
You know what? Go ahead and do that, but hold the metal
Okay.
rod while you're doing it
Okay.
and video it.
So I got to hold the metal rod, camera.
No,
and
your
yell at
lady,
the
your old
spawn.
lady can video it. That's fine. Because
Well-
I actually want to have it, sent to me, so that way I can laugh my butt off when you get struck by lightning. But
Well, given the
It's true.
fact that I believe I've had a family member that was struck by lightning like 3 or 4 times.
We'll just add to the Florida man stories.
anyway, moving right along, OG.
So, D, if CIG would take a minute and listen to your top 3 ideas for things to be moved into the game outside of stability, different, it could be anything. What would your top 3 things that if CIG came up to you and said, hey, we want to know what to add to the game, what would your top 3 be?
So, add as in not planned to be put in, or something that's like currently being worked on, and if I could have it now, I could have it.
Whatever is like top of your list.
It could be planned or not, just like something that you thought of in general for the game, or maybe it's something planned that you'd like to see now. Either way.
that you're anticipating.
I would love, so as someone who tends to operate in larger groups and more cooperative and team-based things, I would die to be able to open up my inventory at a landing zone and have an org tab.
Oh, like a whole org shared inventory. Oh,
just
that.
Yeah,
that would be insane. Because I mean, that it would be extremely helpful. Because we would all just have to meet up in one place, and we all pitch in, given different armors and things like that, and say, "Hey, for this event, we're gonna rock these weapons, this medical stuff."
Well, even so, like, okay, so with touching on what he was talking about with that org shared inventory, like, you have people that, you know, maybe are going out and they're looting or whatever, and they're like, oh, I don't want this, but they don't really want to sell it. Like, they can just drop it into that inventory where the org inventory is located, right?
Yeah.
And let's just say you have new people that come in. They can, you know, and they join the org and everything like that. They can easily just go in there and grab some stuff. The only thing that I see an issue with that would be, like, I could see somebody taking advantage of it just off the cuff, that they're like, oh, I'm going to join this org. They get in the org, and then they go in there and they wipe out the entire inventory and then leave the org.
Yeah.
That would be, you know what I mean? Like, that would be my only thing. So, like, if you could, like, select the people that actually had access to it, I think that would limit it, you know, because you'd have more of your trusted people, like your officers or whatever, like your people that are higher up in the chain, I guess. But
or if you could have it set to where if you're not in that org, you can't keep any of the inventory or anything, or equip any of the inventory.
That I think would be harder for them to.
Yeah, it'd be extremely difficult.
That'd be a lot of tech, yeah.
Extremely difficult.
Well, what's another one, D?
Going along with kind of like that same jive, you know, I do think that some more org support would be awesome. I think having the ability to, like, display the org that you're part of, either as like a prefix to your name, or having you know, and going along with the shared org inventory space. You know, it's every org leader's worry that you get a bank thief joining your org, right? So along with the shared org inventory, we would need, you know, a robust org management system to go along with it. I mean, it's just goes hand in hand.
Yep.
But just all along those fronts, a bit more team support would go a hell of a long way. I think CIG really misunderstands some of their community when it comes to these cases. From being a backer for so many years, I've seen players want to buy bigger, more capable ships the more often they do group activities. I think it would drive further sales, like straight out, and it would be great for the game. So it's a benefit on both ends.
Yeah, didn't they talk about, like, giving people of the ship that you're on, like, actual access to, like, certain things or whatever? Like, these people have access to engineering, but these people only have access to the helm or some crap like that at one point? Yeah,
and I believe that's planned in the future, and we're starting to see the first iterations of that now. When you see the rework on the law system and being able to charge people with trespassing on the ship. I believe they were either working on that, right?
Yeah.
So that's going to be the first, like, step towards accessibility of the ships. I think it was more of a stopgap to stop trolls and stuff from or griefers or pirates or whatever you want to call them.
Yeah.
Probably.
From entering ships and causing havoc and then charging players that are rightfully defending. I think that that's kind of like a stopgap, but we'll see further things with that in the future, no doubt.
I think it was more meant for when people are on planet side outside of armistice zones, obviously, because, somebody, it's a lot harder for a player who doesn't own the ship to get on somebody else's ship. And I'm not saying it's impossible, I'm just saying it's a little bit harder. But when you're like off doing a bunker, let's say, and you're the dork that decided to leave his ramp down or his doors open, and somebody gets on your ship and waits for you to come back, and then they kill you, it's like that kind of your own fault at that point, but also one person cares to not have a crime stat while the other person doesn't. So I get that, and I really wish it would have came out in 320, but I understand like they were talking about how they had what trespass trumps another trespass kind of thing, because you have like the Carrack and the Pisces. So it's you got those two different ships that each have a trespass, so which one is more important than the other kind of thing is what they were talking about from what I understood. So
yeah, they're trying to create some sort of layered tier system on permissions based off of parasite ships and shuttles, and that's understandable, right? Because
absolutely, especially with bigger ships that have multiple ships in them, you know what I mean?
Yes
So.
and we might even get to the point, like, say, where people are flying around in a Javelin and they have a ship that goes into the hangar bay of it, but then that ship could technically have a very small shuttle in it. So like they're going to have to create a very robust system to handle that.
Absolutely. So what's the third one?
Oh, the third one. So let's see. So more general orgs. Well, I guess there'll be two separate ones. My third. So no bugs, it's all working properly and everything else?
Yep. We'll just use that as a stipulation.
Yeah.
For the theory crafting.
Okay, aside from Squad 42 being fully released, I think having a standalone Theaters of War cross-platform for PC, Xbox, and PS5 would crash into this gaming industry like nothing else. I agree. I think that would be like quick 30 minute to hour-long matches, right? To showcase the game and everything that it's capable of, with nice, crisp loadout menus and all that other stuff.
Yeah.
Yep.
And having orbital fighting, ground fighting, and suborbital fighting, it not only shows everything that Star Citizen, the MMO, is trying to achieve, but it gives it in a very quick, nice, bite-sized package.
Right.
Because the PTU or the MMO. It might not be for everyone. Some people don't like the idea of having to gear up and losing everything and all that other stuff.
Right.
But there is a huge chunk of gamers who would love to be able to go into a lobby, click a loadout, join a 45-minute long battle that, again, I think that would be an amazing thing. I think
competitive gaming people, yeah.
Yep.
Absolutely.
Yep. And especially and if you look, actually, what's the esports that are going to be at the CitizenCon?
Fight or Flight.
Up? Right. So I think that would be another great opportunity for Sige to dive into, is really connect with these esports people. And hell, even if they gave Theaters of War with what it was originally, it's still more than what most games are coming out with now, like AAA.
Nope.
Heck yeah. I think that'll be really cool. I think that's like a whole different theory of thinking on things. Like
It's
that's
going to be a next step
insane.
above Battlefield because I mean
Yeah,
Battlefield kind of has that whole theaters of war type deal where it's got like
yeah,
Atmo fight, but it's really gamified, you
yeah,
know,
yeah,
compared to what Star Citizen would be. Like you're not going to eject out of your plane, shoot somebody with a rocket launcher, and then get back in your ship. You know what I mean?
yeah.
That just doesn't happen. So, what were you going
I'm
to ask me, OG?
oh, do you have anything? I'm not like I've got one. I'm not gonna name off top. I'm not gonna name off three because my brain isn't thinking of three right now. I've got one that I've been stuck on for a while that I've been thinking about.
I so this is something that they've talked about, and I'm just overly anxious to have, and that is the new EVA.
Yeah,
I'm waiting for that to come in, and because right now the EVA system is so derpy, and
yeah,
it's like it's doable. Don't get me wrong, but the fact that I could sit there and run and Superman myself out the ship to an airlock, you know, I it adds that next layer of depth and more of a I guess a reality bridge
yeah,
because of how it looks and how it acts and it's perceived and everything, and you can like grab and push and pull and all that when that actually comes out, I'll be pretty excited for it. So that's not something that's obviously something that they've already talked about coming in, but I mean that's just
yeah.
one of the things like that I can think of off the cuff. What's
So
yours?
check it out. So as you know, I'm a big hunter fishing guy myself.
Oh god, I
Right.
know where this is going.
I would love to see a form of ecosystem in Star Citizen.
You talking about like
So
wildlife and all that?
like wildlife, fishing in the waterways, different plants and things. Yeah, I know there are some plants and things that you can
Yeah, there's
find.
foliage. Yeah.
And there is the little roly poly guy that you can find in the new cave. But I'd like to
Turtles
see
on Arcor.
something. Yeah, yeah. But I haven't seen no turtles on our court, so
Well,
we need to go we need
right
to go
next to
find
Dumpers
this.
Depot.
Oh, but I'd like to see some form of hunting fishing gameplay. Of course, I know. Can't remember if me and you talked about this, but base building, hab building, things like that. Whether it be at a station or you put it together yourself, things you found on the planet surface. I'd like to see it more get kind of like add more survival type things, like the expedition we've been talking about. I think when if that type of gameplay ever comes in the future, that would be so the game is already up here for me. Hold on, already right there. It would be up here once
They
that goes.
they have
So-
been. Go ahead.
Well, going along, I will say this. Going along with what OG is saying, the original video of when they went and stole the Nomad of Jax and Jimmy camping out sold me on that ship.
Yeah,
And then a couple episodes into like one of their Star Citizen lives or something like that, they were messing around and decided to make like full unpackable camping gear. And to me, as an old nerd, that gave me reminiscent thoughts of like when Kirk, Spock, and Bones and them are sitting around singing "Row, row, row your boat" around the campfire,
yeah.
and it's like Star Trek, and I'm just like, damn, that would be so freaking cool to be able to camp out like in a space sim. You know what I mean?
There was an episode on SCL, I thought, or something. I don't remember exactly, but they showed a fold-out bed that you could place on the ground.
Yes,
It was the
yeah.
Interactables one. I think that's what it was. Was it the Interactables one?
I believe you're right. Yep.
So I'm sorry, but if they come out with stuff like that, like I'm gonna be, it's gonna be a whole another level. But to touch on your thing there, OG, was Boyds is what they call them, which is which is like birds, fish, wildlife, things like that. So they're working on not only creating the asset, but also working on how they'll interact procedurally and swim around or fly around and interact with the weather and things like that. So I'm almost certain, now this is just a guess, obviously, but I'm almost certain that when we actually get that type of gameplay that you're talking about is but right around the corner. Because they're talking about an MMO as a survival and everything like that. Like, they gotta put the basics in there, even when we may be in this futuristic world. There are going to be times where technology is not readily available, just like it is, IRL wise. You go out camping, you're not going to have cell signal in some places, and if you run out of food, you got to be able to find food. You know what I mean? Exactly. So that's got to be a thing for it to really take place and really put SC on the next level of that survival / MMO game style that everybody's wanting. So it's I don't see why it wouldn't come. It's just a matter of when I think it is, and it could be relying on tech too. So I mean, there's that aspect as well.
Yeah.
So
I think that would be absolutely insane. I would enjoy that a lot.
Right.
Heck yeah.
So I guess we actually just touched on this with your three things there, Demias. But I was going to ask, given the fact that you run an org and everything like that, what do you think that there are some aspects missing from the game and overall support, which you did touch on org support. So I guess that kind of answers that question overall. And we even talked about ship trespass. That was on the agenda too and whatnot. And so in your opinion, how important would you say overall org play is going to be in the future?
Oh, in the future, I think it's going to be a necessity.
Yeah.
Right. So, well, no, I mean,
would you but would you classify it as a necessity to have fun or survivability would be my question on that.
Well, we all have come to learn that Star Citizen is a very dangerous place. It is unforgiving.
Yes.
When the server tick rate is going and those NPCs are shooting back, you get shot once, you're bleeding, and suddenly you're getting surrounded by dudes, and next thing you know, you're waiting a half hour for a medical beacon. And because of the loss of items and the, unforgiving nature, it makes death you don't want to just die.
No.
Yeah.
And I think that really has something going for it there.
Bit. Did you lose it? Lose your train of thought?
Yeah. Gonna have to edit that shit. I'm like, oh boy.
It's all good.
So, D, I know you were talking to me about me and Vintage about the CitizenCon this year that you're planning on going to. You excited? What are some things you want to expect? What are some things you want to see?
Oh, I am absolutely excited for CitizenCon.
Yeah.
I have almost no idea what to expect. I feel like since this is going to be the first one since COVID. It's going to be the first live one in a long time.
Like 4 years or something like that?
Yeah. And it's the first multi-day one.
Oh,
okay. I didn't know. I thought the other one was 2-day event. Most of them are.
Oh, was it?
I don't know. I either way, continue.
Either way, yeah. So I know we're going to see the competitions. I'm pretty sure there's going to be a bunch of streamer booths going on. I'm really hoping to be able to run into people like Board Gamer.
That'd be cool. Space Tomato.
Yeah, definitely.
The Astro Historian. Jesus.
yeah.
Yes.
I love his Lord
He does
videos
the
so
Lord's
much.
work.
Yes, he does. Those things are great.
Yeah.
I'm really hoping to, just, shake hands with the dev, just thank them for their hard work and
absolutely
their passion behind the project. Because I remember when it was just Olisar, so what the game has become.
Yeah.
It has been such a change, at least from my perspective. I know some people, some people have jumped into the game earlier than me, some way later than me, and there's a bunch of different varying perspectives. But I've seen real amazing changes in this game. Right. And really what I hope to see in CitizenCon is just some more of that energy, from the community, from the devs. You could hear every time that any of these guys talk, you could hear the passion behind their voice. You could tell that they love the project. The fans love the project.
Yeah.
Some of them do. Some of them are kind of upset.
Yeah.
I mean,
but that's with everything. That's with every good thing. You're gonna have somebody who doesn't like it. Somebody's gonna tell you it's not gonna work.
Yep.
That's with every great thing.
There's always gonna be haters everywhere. It doesn't matter.
It is. Hate us.
So, if you had a prediction about CitizenCon, and if you feel like you can take the heat from some of the comments that may come from this, what would you predict you would hear at CitizenCon?
So this is what I'm hoping to see.
Don't worry, I'll make sure I add a quick disclaimer in there.
Yeah. Disclaimer. Because we all know the game was supposed to be launched in 2016 or what have you, and this, that, and the other. We're not going to focus on that.
Yeah.
I would love to get my hands. I don't think that we're gonna. All right, hold on. I would love to hear a solid release date for Squad 42.
Oh, I'm sure everybody would.
That being said, it would be amazing to be able to play one mission.
Yeah.
Of Squad 42, like there at
Squad 42. Yeah. Because if you look, they had a bunch of different dev teams doing a final polish on a single thing on the roadmap for Squad 42. Mm-hmm. So, maybe they're going to give us a level to play.
Yep.
That would be insane.
A lot of, from what I'm seeing, so there's, so when you actually look at the roadmap, speaking of that, and you break down the different teams, there's still some of them that are working on Squadron 42, but it's all tail end stuff from what it looks like. I'm not saying that it's done or almost done. I have no idea. I'm not going to begin to even try to predict that. But just looking what's on the roadmap, they've either kind of maybe finished it up, or they've migrated some people over to get more hands on deck for the PTU because of so many issues with PEZ and things like that. So that may be a thing, to try and kind of alleviate some of the damage control that 318 caused, because 319 is still on the base code of 318. They just called it 319 for whatever reason. It doesn't really matter, but from what I hear, like, it's still on the same build principle as 318. And so 320 is going to apparently have a different one. But yeah, if you get a hands-on playable mission at SitCon, I'm going to be pissed I didn't go this year.
But that's like, I mean, that's far-fetched, right? Like, we know no, it's not. It is hopeful. I will say it's hopeful. But the thing is, the game will eventually finish. Squad 42 will eventually finish.
Yep.
So it is whether the PU will stay in constant development forever or not. Squad 42, we know, has an endpoint.
Yeah.
Right? We could all agree on that one.
Yeah.
So it's only a matter of time till that thing's released, straight out. And I do believe that the time is a strategic choice as well, because their main competitor on the single player front would have been Starfield.
Yeah.
And I think after seeing what Starfield was capable of versus what Star Citizen has already figured out, I think CIG goes, let's reveal ourselves. Like, this is the time.
I'm glad you brought that up, because we brought that up a couple of episodes ago, of how people are always comparing Starfield to Star Citizen.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can't compare the MMO to Starfield.
Exactly.
But in my personal opinion, you can absolutely compare Squad 42 to Starfield. They are both single-player experiences. They are stylized very similarly.
One's more military-esque, like Squad 42 is more like on the military side of things, while Starfield is more or less on like kind of like the freelancer kind of that kind of like bounty person, like, you know, I don't really know.
And then personally, I believe that CIG knows when they could showcase all of the things that are possible, even in the single player one, whether it's flying from the deck of a ship to space and then through an asteroid field, then down to atmosphere, then landing and being a soldier. Starfield can't touch that. So CIG is not threatened, and they know it, and that's why I think that. And like you were saying, the roadmap shows it's nothing but polish at this point.
You know, and I don't. Couldn't talk there for a second, but not to pretty much regurgitate what somebody else has said, but I've heard the thought of a lot of people will say that this game will kill Star Citizen and things like that, but other people are thinking that it's going to have an adverse effect or an opposite effect, and people are going to go out and play Starfield and be like, man, this is great, I want more, and yeah, because they're going to be slightly disappointed because their expectations versus reality type deal again, and that's going to cause them to do what?
Look for another option.
They're going to look for another option. So what's that other option? Star Citizen, because everybody's comparing the two. And then they're eventually going to be like, well, let me check out this other option that everybody says is so great and everything or whatever. And they come in and they see that it's still an alpha and they see that the potential that the PU actually holds. I don't think any game should ever be a killer of another game. I just think it should be like, you have options, just like when you drive cars, you want an SUV. There's several different options to choose from.
Exactly.
Some have benefits over the other, and some have cons over the other. So I mean, it depends on what your play style is that you're looking for, and how in depth and involved you want to be in the world that you're playing in. You know what I mean?
Exactly. I completely agree.
I will say though, if Squad 42 does want to be a direct competitor to those games, they are going to need to cross-platform it. They're going to have to figure it out.
Squad 42.
Yes, not the PU,
right.
Not the MMO.
I don't think you'll ever see that on the
console. But that single player game, they are gonna want that on consoles somehow. Again, it's millions of millions of people that are locked on console that don't game. And if Starfield's able to run on a console, Squad 42's not too much of a stretch to get it on the next gen after.
See why not.
Right?
Squad 42, like you said, is a closed system game. Like, it has certain points of interest that you're going to go to. No, it's not like Starfield in the fact that things are procedurally generated planet-wise or anything like that. Like, there are set things in the game, you know what I mean? So it may be a large game to download and things like that, but as far as the ability to load and everything like that, I don't see why. I mean, they're going to probably have to optimize the engine a little bit to where it could run on the other equipment, but some of these consoles are getting to the point now to where they're on par with some of the PC equipment, you know, or mid-grade, mid-tier type stuff. I mean, so it's not like these consoles are locked by hardware or lack thereof, I guess you should say.
Yeah, I completely agree.
And let's face it, a lot of Star Citizen. Well, I don't want to say a lot at a whole generalization, but many Star Citizen players that I do know have rigs that are capable of flying to the moon. Right? Many of our systems are over-tuned.
Yep.
Star Citizen, a lot of its bugs and jitteriness, it tends to be on their side of things. It is tied to server tick rate. It is tied to all this other stuff. I don't think we're going to need the rigs we have now to even run Squad 42. We're going to need something half as strong.
Yeah.
Like, there is no... Right? So I think that they really got to work on making their game accessible.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So that's system requirements, platforms, whatever. But I definitely think they do have something special. After seeing Starfield, I did see many people complain that their landing and their takeoff was hidden behind a loading screen. Just a very clever one.
Oh, man.
It looks like you only have small spots that you could land, and then you could only be on foot the rest of the time. So you could land anywhere on 1,000 planets, but have fun. You have to walk.
Yeah, there's no mounts. So there's no mounts or vehicles or anything? Is that what you're saying?
None. And Todd Howard said you get a jetpack that boosts you for 8 seconds. Ta-da! That's your transport for a whole planet, guys. So if anyone thinks that you have a whole planet to be able to play with, that's a mistake. You have a planet you could fly using a loading screen, fly to, and then you're going to have a zone that you could land, but then the rest of the planet's inaccessible. You have no way to travel to it.
Just because of the sheer limitations of traveling on foot.
Yeah, think about it. If you have to travel on foot and you cannot atmospheric travel, unless there's a landing zone where you can click and hit go, you're never getting anywhere on that planet. Ever. You're only gonna see what's gonna be able to be loaded around you because there's no way you're gonna walk 30 kilometers. And even if you are, you're just doing it to try to say, oh, this planet's real. No. You have an infinite sized map, but you have to walk everywhere. It doesn't make any sense. You're just saying
it's not.
You're
Yeah.
calling it infinite just to say you have a big planet, right? But if you don't give the player the ability to access that planet, it's not. There's no point. It's just clever talk.
Exactly.
Oh.
Exactly.
In Star Citizen, we have an array of vehicles, whether they're wheeled, hovered. If you want to jump out of the vehicle while your aircraft is flying in atmosphere, you could do that. If you want to do a suborbital drop,
I wouldn't
out of
recommend jumping out of the vehicle while in Atmo, though.
I can show you how to do that.
I mean, at least if you're in a wheeled vehicle, yeah, do it. But if you're not, I wouldn't recommend that because that would hurt when you hit the
No
ground.
balls.
Yeah, you did it.
But yeah, that was always something that
Recently.
really bothered me with Starfield and their whole planet talk and all this other
Yeah.
stuff is they actually gave no, unless you could go onto a map and like click certain hexes when you're like looking at the planet map, but even then every time you want to go to a different hex, you're loading screening up, going
Right.
back into orbit, going to your map, picking a new location.
Yeah.
Like I'd rather just drive or fly a M50.
Yep.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So,
Pyro.
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 We're gonna touch on just a little bit the Pyro system.
Pyro.
Everybody hates talking about this because nobody knows when it's gonna come and all that. But
It's like the fupa discussion, right?
the taboo,
Like,
yeah, it is the
Yeah.
taboo discussion, is it not?
Yes.
Because so it was originally announced a while ago and was supposed to come out like what, 6 years ago, 5 years ago, something like that.
well, the game was supposed to be launched in 2016.
Okay, so they're
Well,
total-
I'm just trying to be exactly how the forum trolls are, right? That's their thing. It was supposed to be out in 2016.
I understand that. And there are a lot of people that gripe and complain about the game's development and probably don't have an inkling of an idea of what it takes to do this. Not to sound like a freaking cheerleader or anything like that for CIG, but I am one of those people that firmly believe to not gripe at somebody on how to do a job when I'm not doing their job. But anyway,
Amen.
Pyro.
Pyro.
Do you think
Pyro.
you think it's going to be this year, or do you think it's going to be next, or sometime after that?
Nope.
So this really depends. Going back to the previous stuff about CitizenCon, right? If we hear nothing about Squad 42, maybe we'll hear about Pyro being tested with Evocati.
All right, so we were talking about getting back to it. We were talking about Pyro and the
Pyro?
taboo conversation. Demias.
All right. So what about Pyro? Are we seeing it? What are my thoughts?
Yep.
When are we seeing it? All right. So, yeah, again, along with CitizenCon, I do believe. I mean, I believe they did state their intentions were to have it in Evocati's hands for what 6 months or so.
Right.
So I don't think it's definitely, of course, not going to be released before the end of the year. But I think if I were CIG, that my intention would be to announce it in Evocati hands, right?
If it's actually in Evocati hands, then yeah, I would definitely say that. But
Yeah.
if it's not,
I would have that as my so historically speaking, they tend to try to do like a holiday a good holiday patch, at least the past couple of years, that hasn't happened. But they used to drop it just before Christmas, let us play with it, bugs be damned.
Right.
So that is also another hope of mine, is we'll hear that CIG wants to have it in Evo Cotti's hands for Christmas.
Yeah.
That way, once it's in any player's hands, whether it's someone who just says it. What was that?
I said whether it's Evo Cotti or not, yeah.
Oh, yes. But once it's not just devs and just a single other player has access to it, it's real, right?
Yep.
There's progress. It's tangible. Whether it's buggy, disconnecty, whatever, who cares? It's real.
Exactly.
Players don't give a shit.
But and along with Squad 42's sentiments, a game will only be in development for so long, unless they go the whole infinite development route. But I do sincerely doubt that.
No.
Things get completed.
Eventually,
yeah.
Eventually later.
One eternity later. So my thoughts on Pyro. Okay, so they specifically talked about tech that is holding up a lot of things, and that tech for the most part is server meshing. Like, would we see Pyro before server meshing? It's possible that they would use the jump points as like a quasi loading screen from one server to the next.
No.
You would be able to travel in between them, but it wouldn't be a full server meshing. You know what I mean? Like, you would spawn in, like, hey, I want to spawn in at Microtech, and then you travel to the jump point, and then it transfers you to a Pyro server, and then the next time that you log in, you're logged in at a Pyro server. You know what I mean? Like Ruin Station or whatever. Like, I could see that happening, just because they're like, we keep promising this doggone system and we keep coming up short.
No.
So I could totally understand that. But resource management for like the capital ships and whatnot is another thing. Like, they want to get capital ships out, or bigger multi-crew ships out and things like that. So they're going to need the resource management. They're going to need the ship trespass now, and the ability to grant different crew members access to different parts or systems of the ship, right? And I think a lot of that has to deal with the tech involved behind server meshing.
Yeah.
I agree
being fully
completely.
fleshed out.
Yeah, I agree completely. I think that, as you were saying, along with the blockers, I do believe that they had stated previously they wanted, along with resource management, they did want the whole C fully functioning. That is slated for 320X patch. And going along with the roadmap as well, they're putting in missions and content, like action, like not just mission sites, but like the NPCs. They're creating the armor that these people are wearing, as well as the Polaris and Perseus, I believe, are slated to finish completion in December, which were two other ships.
Polaris is
Okay.
So I recently watched. I believe it was something from Star Citizen, but they are, so the Polaris is laying the groundwork and the, like, how they're going to design future RSI subcapital and capital class ships, right? So from what it was being said was, and if my memory serves me correctly, so don't beat me up in the comments about this, but it was going to be the Polaris then the Perseus, and then the Galaxy, as far as order of when they're going to do what.
Yeah.
I don't know if any of that's true or anything like that, but if that's the case, we'll see the Polaris, which, again, the work that's slated to finish up like in the middle of December for the Polaris doesn't necessarily mean that we'll see it the very next patch. It could just be that the design of the ship is done, but then it has to go through its final LOD phase and like sound effects and all that stuff, and like
All
a
that
polished
good stuff.
pass, you know.
Yeah.
And
So-
the Polaris and Perseus are both RSI,
Correct.
Deve-
And so is the Galaxy. Yes.
and so is the Galaxy. Yeah, well, that does make sense then, right? Because
it does.
because it feels to me that the Polaris and Perseus are modeled heavily behind one another with their architecture, their coloring, their
Interior
stuff.
as well.
Yeah. So so a lot of those assets are probably going to be usable on both. You know, they'll have a lot of cross-generated assets from the development of those ships. So yeah, I guess that does make perfect sense why they would do them, and then the Galaxy. Yeah, I just, to me it does seem like all signs are pointing to the culmination of getting Pyro together, and I do think that CIG bites themselves in the foot by showing Pyro 2 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Way ahead of schedule, right?
Yep.
I think they do that a lot.
I think they get
Um,
excited and they get ahead of themselves.
Yes, yes.
And as much as I appreciate their enthusiasm, it's stop doing that. You know what I mean? To
Yeah.
at least to a certain degree, it's like you.
Well, I think.
Go ahead.
Oh, go ahead. Okay. Well, I think, yeah, like, if they would do a disclaimer, like, oh, hey guys, this planet and all of these NPCs and all of this stuff that we're showing you in these clips is all completely staged, like, ahead of time, and this, and they state, like, this is what the future will hold,
Mm-hmm.
right? Rather than giving us a trailer that looks near feature complete. So I just think I'm down for all of these really cool videos and trailers and things to be hopeful for in the future. Just a little more transparency as to your current position as to where this is actually done to help temper expectations for the community to avoid backlash.
Yeah.
It would be. I know, like, they're trying to keep a lot of it on the DL and everything like that, but some kind of information regarding the actual development of when this next big group of content, i.e. Pyro, comes out would be nice. And I'm not looking for like a release date. It would just be like, hey, we want Pyro out. We planned for it at X patch or
Yeah.
whatever time of year. But because of X, Y, and Z, that's probably not going to happen.
Well,
You know what I mean? And if they go, like, they announce something, you know, like, hey, we want to release it, you know, the end of, like they did in IE this past year. They said Road to 4.0, hopefully being released by the end of 2023, like Q4 of 2023 is what they said, right?
Yeah.
So when 318 bombed, they should have put out an announcement on their official website and go, look, because this has happened and we're still needing this, this, and this, the possibility of Pyro or 4.0 by Q4 of 2023 is looking like it's not going to happen. We will keep you updated as far as whether or not if it's still going to happen or not. But as it stands right now, these are the expectations that it's not going to happen.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Well,
like just to kind of like
Exactly.
an update of what they announced in IE about 4.0, because that's what a lot of the players I feel are waiting on is they want Pyro because it was announced. Like Pyro was announced like God knows how long ago, you know, and it's still not here. And I know like they have a bunch of stuff like the Inside Star Citizen and the Star Citizen Live, and those are great and I love watching those. I feel like if they were a little bit more, I guess, I don't know, transparent would be the word, or just and I'm not going to necessarily say apologetic. I mean, this is development. Like, things are going to go south at times. Like, that happens, you know, and your expectations of what you want to release versus what happens are completely different. Like, you know, and I guess it would be more of an accountability about what you announced compared to what's actually going to happen. I guess would be the right term.
Yeah.
Well, I will say they used to do their roadmap for an entire year out.
Yeah, and they kept getting backlash about it.
And they would get backlash. So unfortunately here, I believe CIG is kind of I think they're doing what they feel is right. They're trying to avoid a bunch of negative publicity, because what would happen is they would post the roadmap for a year, and then as things would change, the roadmap would get completely shifted around. Even things that were still 3/4 away would get removed off the tracker and then put back up. But then every time that happened, the community would blow up. Then you would see a bunch of stuff on Reddit talking about, oh, this feature was removed, this feature is not, this feature's, and no one pays attention to like any of the other stuff where it's like, you know, it's going to come back. It's just removed from the tracker temporarily.
Yeah.
So I think that was creating a lot of miscommunication between the developers and the community as a whole.
Yep.
So they transitioned to 1/4 out. And ever since then, I will say it has seemed like development has slowed down a lot more. I don't necessarily know. I don't think it has anything to do with that, but I think because of that change, there's less transparency, so it leaves a lot of people in the dark.
Yep.
But then again, case in point, does CIG want to go back to getting yelled at every change?
You put it that way, and it kind of sounds like it's damned if you do, damned if you don't kind of scenario. So I mean, I guess it is what it is at this point, you know.
Yeah, and I'm just trying to take a perspective of watching all of the changes over the past, you know, 8 years, however long. And one of the things that I've also noticed is they do get just less general bad feedback because there's less changes going on with that, you know, quarterly release schedule.
Yeah.
And I think they're shooting themselves less in the foot because of it, because, you know, the developers end up playing like damage control and then trying to rush something out that's not necessarily ready, and then you just get people complaining that the content's buggy. So I tend to take I sit back and I'm not a developer. I work with chemicals, right? I play video games.
Yeah.
I don't develop them.
Right.
Exactly. Speaking...
Go ahead. Nope. That's where I was going. Go for it.
So speaking of Pyro, what are you most excited about as far as when it comes to Pyro? What are you excited for to come out with it?
So I personally tend to enjoy pushing the boundaries of what Star Citizen's capable of.
Mm-hmm.
So that includes like persistence of entities on the ship, on like large ships, people, you know, using the beds to spawn. I am very excited for the logistics, the feeling like Stanton's a pretty small space, and it's pretty easy to get around there. So it still feels like you're kind of like in like a very habited like area. I'm looking for that expedition feel, that we just took 30% of our hull damage on starboard side in that last fight. Where's the nearest star base?
Yeah.
Oh,
There's
we
not
can't
one.
get right. We can't get that far. Hey, can one of you guys go down and start using your multi-tool to spray the holes in the hole? Like,
Yeah.
I'm waiting for that feel of living out there.
That.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just
Yeah.
simply
I feel-
yes.
After watching that video about Pyro, I feel almost as we're in the Stanton system, is that we're almost in like a demo of the game. You know what I mean? And then I'm waiting for the rest of it to come. As far as just like the exploration and things like that, I am extremely excited about that. I'm extremely excited to see what kind of challenges as a multi-crew that we're going to run into. I am shits and giggles. Excited.
Yeah. What so we were talking about basically this already, but what do you feel is CIG's biggest hurdle right now as far as development? I'm pretty sure we touched on this already, but
So a lot of people would probably say getting server meshing done. That is
atypical.
Pretty atypical. I think Star Citizen's biggest development hurdle right now is getting Squad 42 finished and getting that whole team put onto the MMO
Yeah.
to work on that. Because I think their A-listers are all up on Squad 42 right now. You know, they're the ones that are really developing and proofing out everything right. And then they're sending it down to the MMO to get concepted in for the multiplayer aspect.
Right.
But I definitely think many of the stars of the company are over there. So when that game gets finished and they reallocate the personnel, I'm hoping that that's going to be about the same time that all of CIG's planet generation tech, all of their bunker generation tech, all of their generative development tools are finished, and all of these people can hammer it out, and we get some sort of snowball effect on development.
Yeah.
But that's pretty hopeful.
I think I've mentioned that same kind of like thought process almost, where it's like once Squad 42 is done and it has a release date and development is finally finished and all that, I think that the actual development of the PU is going to start going
taking
leaps and
place.
bounds.
Yeah.
So
Heck yeah.
but so moving past Pyro and I guess a little bit more into the future from that, or maybe around the same time, who knows, but what are your thoughts on homesteads? Likes, dislikes, expectations, things like that?
I think homesteads are going to be something that... Alright, so one of the things that Star Citizen really has going for it, beyond many other games, even ships that are, or even games that are very similar to it, like No Man's Sky and stuff like that. And I think Starfield's really going to get this one right. But I believe things like ships, player housing, and homesteads are all heavily craved in all aspects of gaming. I remember being in an MMOer back in World of Warcraft, just wishing we had a guild base back in Burning Crusade, right? They eventually came out with some of that stuff. And similarly, many games like Star Wars The Old Republic, they would have or guild capital ships and guild bases, as well as player housing. So going into Star Citizen here, we got to be careful with how, because there's always going to be limitations on the tech, right?
Yep.
And Star Citizen's going to have to be careful with how they handle their player housing and their, the things that make the players feel connected to the world. Their first thing is their starship, right? The more little things you could do with your starship, the better. Being able to put weapons in weapon racks, customize the little bobbleheads, all the little showers and doodads. It's great. It makes it feel like it's yours, right?
Yeah.
And again, Starfield, I think that's going to get it perfect.
Yeah.
I think you're going to feel like that is your mini home away from home, right?
Yeah.
And that's really what we're looking for here. So both, great jobs. Now, as far as the other things that players feel connected to, whether it's player housing or what you're saying, homesteading, I don't want to confuse the two, right? Because from what it seems to me that CIG is trying to do is they want player housing within cities, utilizing things like personal hangars, personal bedrooms, stuff like that.
Yeah, that's our next topic, so
Yeah.
plays right into it, but go ahead.
Okay. So let me flow.
Yeah.
So if you look at that, that's a very easy way to give players another piece of personal attachment or personal property.
Mm-hmm.
But that type of stuff is going to be done through phasing, and I believe that was already announced, especially with the hangar aspect. We know hangars are going to be phased.
Yep.
And I have no doubt as well that the elevators to your personal habs will be phased as well, right?
Yep.
And that's going to give us our own little personal touches. But player-built housing to where you're going to land claim it up and build infrastructure and like a base, and I do not believe that they're going to give single player individuals an easy way to achieve this. I believe that aspect is going to be an org-based thing.
Well, I mean, think about it. Like, the Pioneer, as far as we know right now, is the only thing that comes with a land claim, and you have to have the Pioneer to even build the base, as far as I understand it, unless I'm wrong.
Yeah.
I mean, but if that's the case, like, what one individual who's not in an org is want to spend that money to be able to have the ability to build a base, unless you're doing it in game, because I mean, eventually the ship will be released in game, but will the land claims, the ability to buy a land claim, be released in game to where you can buy with in-game currency would be a question too,
Exactly.
Yeah, and I think they're gonna I'm just having a hard time picturing the moon of Lyria having 1 million homesteads.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And as game developers, they're gonna, just like the one development video that they made for hole munching. They test things in a worst case scenario environment. As a developer, my worst case scenario would be every single player in the game wants to get their own homestead, because that would tank the game.
Yeah.
Right? That's a worst case scenario. So how, as developers, would we resolve that? So we would gate that around some sort of org ability, or because some diligent players, give someone enough time, they'll farm up their own resources and they'll take their own Pioneer out there and they'll do it all by themselves, man.
Yep. There are those determined people.
Yes, there are. So I do believe that it's going to be gated behind things like land claims. The CIG is going to definitely want something, because we're already seeing problems with persistence when it comes to like ammo clips, water bottles, stuff like that.
Yeah.
Yep.
So they're going to need some sort of automatic cleanup tools. I don't see, some games like Conan would do like land claim wars and stuff like that, to where you could declare war against an org and then the structure becomes destructible. Other games do it in the form of like taxes or regular payments to the UEE, or so I definitely think that they're going to need some way to clean things up, because there are going to be groups of people that play, put down a base, and then stop playing, right? There's going to be all kinds of situations, and CIG's not going to. They're going to have to figure out a way to manage that. So I really think when it comes to land claims and buildable bases, it is all tech limitations at that point.
Yeah.
They want to give it to us,
Right.
and if they had it their way, but I think it will be segmented to phasable hangars, your ships, phasable bedrooms that you could rent at cities, and org structured base building.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
Now, if
agree.
they could do it a different way, that would be great. I want to know how.
Right.
I personally can see that, because my next question was about persistent habs and hangers, and that's why I said it tied in very well. Like, if I was a solo player, didn't have an org or anything like that, like, I would pay, like, even if it was like, oh, your rental for this month is 2,500 AUEC or whatever, just to keep the apartment, like your persistent apartment or whatever.
Yeah.
I would be more apt to stay at a localized place that had a bunch of resources that I didn't have to go out and scout for, than to try and acquire a pioneer and a land claim and build a base. If I was a solo person, like if I was a solo person, I would be staying at a city. Now, if I had a group of people of 15 or more people, then like, let's build a base, like everybody pitch in and grab resources and keep the things stockpiled and things like that. And again, this goes back to that whole org support thing that we were talking about earlier, about having like an org bank or org shared inventory, like that kind of thing. Like, that's when that's really going to come apparent and everything. But I think that homesteading and persistent habs is going to be defined between two different types of players or play style.
I agree completely.
So
I agree completely on that.
But any freaking who. Well, D, it was a pleasure, and it was a great conversation. I do appreciate you coming in.
Hey, thank you for having me. I had a great time. I love theory crafting about Star Citizen
Heck yeah.
Same.
and all the good stuff
This is
there.
good fun. The
Well,
D&D.
We'll be doing it again. But
let's.
OG, what do you got for us on our little
Good old
shindig?
Good old Florida man.
Yeah,
So,
buddy.
This one's pretty interesting. So, Florida man drives stolen truck to Space Force Base to warn a battle between aliens and dragons.
Aliens and what?
Dragons.
Oh my god. Was he on bass?
Florida-
salts?
It had to been something.
I mean, of the two things named, one of them was just announced real, so how far-fetched would a dragon
Now,
be?
this is true. This is true. So, Florida man is accused of driving a stolen vehicle to a Space Force base in Brevard County in what they called mission from the President of the United States, according to the reports.
Again, not far-fetched.
Corey Johnson, age 29, stole a truck from Riviera Beach and drove to Patrick Space Force Base near the Kennedy Space Center. When Johnson tried to get on the base, he claimed the president told him in his mind that he needed to take the vehicle and warn the government officials there that there were aliens, U.S. aliens fighting Chinese dragons.
Daddy.
He was arrested and charged with grand theft of a motor vehicle.
So like the Shenlong dragons, like
Yeah.
the real long ones with
Yeah,
like
one with no wings and the big whiskers.
Yeah.
yes.
Oh my goodness.
I don't know about you, but I worry about dragons constantly.
Oh my god, that's. Oh man,
Not
that
only
was
did
probably
he
the best
know,
one yet. I'm not gonna lie.
I think so. But the president told him in his mind, is according to this report.
I'm gonna start grabbing my tinfoil hat when you read these.
I've got mine on underneath my hat now. It's just my small one, my miniature one. I need to pull out the full-fledged bodysuit. Okay,
Full fledged.
I'll get the wife to wrap me up in aluminum foil next time, and I'll see if the president can talk to me as well. So.
Hey, it's been fun, y'all. We appreciate it.
Heck yeah.
Y'all have a
This
good one.
was a
We'll see you
blast.
next round.
Hey, Mini Vintage here. I just want to say thank you for all those that listen to this podcast. It means a lot to me and my dad. Make sure to like and subscribe. Also, check the description down below for all our socials. 07 Citizens.